I was looking back on my videos and I noticed I need to finish up my tiny arrowheads series. It's probably going to be a 3-part series because I wanted to do some more hafting on the small points. But I'll discuss small points and what I know about them in this video. So yeah, I'll do this. I'll nap on this one here before I finish my other one. This little flake. Yeah, that's about it. 1x2. Oh, excuse me. I'm already yawning. Let's see. 1 1/4 by 2. Yeah, I just worked on this one in the last video, but I need to work on some tiny arrowheads. Now, I've got a real one. This is a real one in this little bag. Okay. So what I know about tiny arrowheads is they were used just like regular arrowheads to hunt the same animals as the regular size arrowheads. And they're pretty common, actually, the small ones. Most common size that I know of for the small arrowheads is just a simple triangle. No notches or stem. As far as I know, in most areas. Now, in some areas you don't find very many of those. You find that they're all notched or they all have stems of some sort. But I think if you look nationwide, the most common tiny arrowhead is just a simple triangle. It might not be the most common in sheer numbers, but common as a design, I think. That's pretty safe to say. Yeah, sheer numbers of arrowheads, I don't know. I don't have that data. So there may be a larger number of tiny arrowheads that are notched in total numbers. But those little notched arrowheads, I don't think are as common in all areas. Okay. I could be wrong. I could ask AI about that one. I don't know if it has information that's specific on arrowheads. So what is the size now? I just trimmed off the weak areas. Let's see. It is 1 1/4 long by about 1 inch wide. Okay. It's going to get considerably smaller because it's really lumpy right now. And yeah, this is a heat treat, so it is kind of cheating. It's still not going to be all that fun to nap. As you can see, it's requiring me to hit this very, very hard and fast to get it to thin down. Because I'm at the stage where I'm thinning now. Or doing the preliminary biface or preliminary preform. Preliminary preform. Yeah. I already did the biface stage. Now I'm thinning it down to get the preliminary preform. And then I'll do the final thinning on the refined preform. And then I'll do the shape. Like the notches or whatever. I'll try to make this as delicate as I can also. But yeah, what I know about small arrowheads is they were used just like regular arrowheads. You can hunt big game with small arrowheads, you just need to hit it with more arrows. Yeah, and that's what they did. Often you will find several arrows in the area, arrowheads, in the area where they were hunting successfully, because the arrowheads will oftentimes remain in the remains of the animal. Yeah. Why? I don't know. Seems like they would be easy to pull out and they wouldn't stay in the carcass. Now it could be that they shot several animals and some of them got away, but they died later with a bunch of arrowheads in them. That's possible. Because a tiny arrowhead is easy to extract from the wound. It doesn't catch. Even with barbs on it, a small arrowhead doesn't catch very well when being pulled out. At least that's how it works. If I got small arrowheads in a quiver that got barbs, they pull out much more easily from the quiver than a large arrowhead with big barbs. Yeah. I don't know. I've got to do tests on animal carcasses. And I had a chance while I was in Texas to shoot some carcasses, but I never got around to it because I didn't have any good arrows made. Yeah. Now I'm going to make some good arrows and I don't have no carcasses to shoot at. I'm not going to shoot at the meat that I get at the grocery store because I need to eat that stuff. I need to eat it. The carcasses that I was seeing were being thrown away by the butcher who was making or processing the deer meat and elk meat, white-tailed deer and mule deer meat and elk. They were butchering those animals and then throwing the carcasses in the trash. You know, the bones, basically. But the rib cages were intact with all the muscles between the ribs, so you can shoot at it and get a reasonable percentage of success passing through the ribs, for example, as a test. But I didn't have any arrows to shoot or test. It takes a lot of arrows to test that stuff. You can't just shoot it with one arrow and say, okay, I did a test, and with one arrow, now I know everything. No, you got to shoot it with like 10 or 20 arrows and come up with a good set of statistics. The more arrows you shoot, the better. That way you can get like how many arrows actually make it through the rib cage undamaged. How many arrowheads, and when they are damaged, to what extent. And that sort of thing. You need at least 20, I would think. A couple dozen arrowheads. Sampled size. A couple dozen arrow in the sample size. Now, how do you do this back in the day if you don't have indirect percussion? Well, with these tiny things, most of these, I believe, were done with pressure. Only. Yeah. Which reduces the size of your knapping kit. For sure. So, tiny arrowheads, one of the advantages is a small knapping kit. You just strike off little flakes with a hammerstone, or pick up debitage from sites that have already been occupied and just pressure flake a little arrowhead out of the debitage. Yeah. Now what am I going to do with this? I'm not having much success with the indirect percussion flaker, thinning it down. It's just all kind of lumpy. So I'm going to refine it with pressure and see if that helps to give me better areas to strike. Yeah, let's see how that works. What else do I know about small arrowheads? A lot of them were attached with only glue. I know that much. There's evidence of that. So yeah, all you need is glue on many of those. Especially the ones that don't have notches. Why don't they have notches? Well, because they didn't need them. They just used glue. Yeah. What kind of glue? Just natural hot melt. You know, pine rosin, asphaltum, other rosins, even, you know, natural sugar sources from plants, you know, sugary plants. You can boil down their sap or whatever, and if it's sugary, it's sticky, and it can be used as a hot melt glue. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, glue can be used exclusively, which is another shortcut. So one shortcut is you don't need to work hard to get an arrowhead out of a little flake. It's a shortcut. And number 2, the glue, because you don't need to have too much sinew with you. You do need to wrap the shaft under the arrowhead with sinew, but that's it. And maybe sometimes they did not even do that, but I think that the shaft was wrapped underneath the arrowhead in the vast majority of cases. Yeah. I do think so. Yep. But I can see where it wouldn't necessarily be required. Depends on what you're hunting, right? If you're hunting something with a thick skin, then yeah, you need something to reinforce the shaft so it won't split. Anyways, let's see. What else do I know about the tiny arrowheads? There's a lot of them in the desert. Yeah. I think that has to do with, you know, a hostile environment. You need to travel long distances, so you don't want to carry heavy items or lots of rocks with you to make your arrowheads. You want to travel light in the desert because resources are scarce. Water and food. So you got to travel long distances for hunting and for water. When you're moving, you know, it's not like you can go down to the next tributary of the river. You either got to follow the main river or travel long distances to the next one. To the next river. Anyway, there's also springs and stuff, but those are also few and far between. Okay, so I'm trying to think. Small arrowheads also have the advantage that they don't weigh much, so you can practice with an arrow with just a wooden point and get good at that, and just install a small arrowhead. It won't change the dynamics, the dynamic spine or anything on the arrow, and it doesn't affect the weight forward very much. So you don't have to practice with arrowheads on your arrows. Yeah. Just practice with a wooden foreshaft, and then with that same wooden foreshaft you can just cut a notch in it and install an arrowhead, and you've already practiced. Yeah. Because the weight doesn't affect the arrow very much. So this is working out okay. It's regularizing it, but I do need to thin it down a little bit more. That's probably why they didn't start with thick flakes. Another thing I know about these little arrowheads is that they were usually made on thin flakes and not fat flakes like I did. But I started with a fat flake just because it's more difficult. It's relatively easy just to pick a thin flake and nap around it, if you're careful. Yeah, which is difficult for new guys. A lot of times a new guy will ask me, can you nap a thin flake? Because I've napped like 100 thin flakes and they break every single one of them. How do you do it? Yeah. It's not easy to nap a real thin flake. It will snap. especially if you use a pad that's not domed. Yep. At least for me. I need a domed pad to do anything delicate. Alright. So I'm going to use indirect percussion again to get this thin down. Hopefully. Hopefully. It's got a weird patch of something in the middle there. Did it get it? It got it. All right. I had a comment from someone that said they can't do the indirect percussion. Can't do it. I couldn't do it at first either, but it worked better than everything else I was trying. Yeah, at least I could get something when I first started with it. I developed my technique out of frustration with other methods. Yeah. But I wasn't great at it to begin with. It just worked better than other methods. You'll get it eventually. Unless you're stuck in old ways, then it's hard. When I taught my kids, the ones that were interested, when I taught them to flint knap, they picked up this indirect percussion stuff right away. Easy peasy. They napped for a few weeks and that was it. They could already make an arrowhead after 3 weeks. And, you know, that's what I remember. It only took a few weeks. Like, they would be practicing every other day, sitting there chipping. And within a few weeks, they were already making what they wanted. And they were using indirect percussion and very little pressure flake. Yeah. I told them, just do the majority with the indirect percussion and then you can make little notches and stuff with pressure flakes. And they go, okay. Yeah. Easy peasy. You can imagine how good they would have been by now if they kept it up. But they lost interest. Once you're successful at doing something and you meet your goal, you tend to move on. That's what they did. They made a few necklaces. They made a few little knives. That was it. Next. That was so easy. Why you want to do that the rest of your life, Dad? It gives me peace. Yeah. You'll understand when you get older. Peace is one of those things that you strive for after a while. Because you hardly get any. The older you get, the harder it is to find peace. Yeah. Okay. They say, okay. So when am I going to get to the real napping? Let me put my other glasses on. I have a feeling that most of my napping so far has been blurry. Yeah. It's just tiny, right? Let's see what it is now. No, come on. This is 5/8 wide right now by a little over an inch. Yeah. And that's millimeters and centimeters down below. So don't think you're only doing inches. What about the millimeters? It's on there. Some of you will go, oh yeah, it is. Dang it. I know how it is. I do the same thing. I don't even notice it's right in front of me. And I don't know if that's autism or ADHD. I don't know. All I know is I can look directly at something and not see it unless my mind is focused on the characteristics that the object should have, and the object indeed does have those characteristics. If there's any deviation from the characteristics, I can look directly at it and not see it, unless I'm paying close attention. But if I'm doing it fast, I have to look for something really quick. That's when it gets me. If I can slow down and look and then double look and then triple look. Oh yeah, it's right there. All right, let's get the file. I see it going in and out of blurriness constantly. Hope that's not bad. Hope it's not bad. Alright, I need to thin this way down. Wondering if I can do it with the pressure or continue with the indirect percussion. I'm going to do some more with the indirect percussion. Yep. I can get bigger flakes. Get those big bold flakes with the indirect percussion. You hit it really hard. Yeah. Like that. But it didn't work right because it blew off some of the corner. And that didn't work right because it crunched it. Okay. Better work this time. There's a lot of grinding, and sometimes when I grind it too much, I can't get a flake to come off. Yeah, like that. I can't do it. It won't flake. Did it do it? Haha. Voila. It did it. Finally. After hitting it a bunch of times and risking breaking it. It still doesn't do it quite right though. Yeah, it's just the conditions aren't good. I'm trying to take a shortcut and not hitting it very well. I should be hitting lower striking areas. Probably should be ground down a little bit more. Come on. Shouldn't be that hard to take off a flake. Come on. And there's probably some wobbling going on that we can't see. Just a slight little difference in wobbling with such a small point can make a big difference in the flake removal. Yeah. Because it's all a matter of scale, it's small. And we know that even with large points, a subtle deviation in the angles can make all the difference. You can imagine how subtle that deviation is with a very small point. It's very subtle. Alright, let's see if I can do this without snapping this. That'd be terrible if I snap this little arrowhead. Okay, hold on. Even with my glasses, still goofing it up. I don't know. I don't know that much about the small arrowheads. I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty much the same as the other arrowheads. Now, why did they put barbs and all that on these? It's just probably tradition. Not all of these little arrowheads are heavily barbed, though. Some of them are. Why would they put barbs on them if it doesn't make that much difference? And why would they put serrations on them when the edges are so short? You know, it doesn't really make much difference whether the edges are straight or serrated when they're so tiny. You know, lengthwise, it's not much cutting surface. So you can pretty much just make them without sharp edges and they'll work. It will still work. But in many cases, they sharpen them really sharp. They put a lot of little delicate serrations on them in some cases, and notches and all that. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why they would do that when it's not necessary. Now, some of them could have been ornamental or jewelry or something like that. That would make sense if they're supposed to be miniature versions of the big things. Then yeah, I can see how they're very finely made with everything that a large arrowhead would have, like the serrations and the notches and all that. But strictly for hunting or for utilitarian reasons, I don't see a reason for all those fancy characteristics on these. Okay. So that pressure flake pass worked okay, but I'm still lumpy. I don't know if I should use pressure or percussion to get rid of the lumps. It's going to get kind of narrow. And this is when it snaps. Let's see. It slips too. I gotta hold it steady. Believe it or not, there's still a lot of pressure involved in the pressure flaking. Yeah. Okay, I think that's thin enough. It'll fit within any arrow shaft. This is the thickness of this. It doesn't need to be thinned down too much as far as width to thickness ratio to get the thinness required for the shaft. Yeah. Don't have to thin it down much at all. But I do want to get it thin just so I can do it on video. Just to show you how it's done. It's done carefully. Yeah, I know that's Captain Obvious, but I'm showing you how carefully it needs to be done. You can't just say do it carefully, because then you'll say, well, how careful? How careful? That's what I want to know. I can't do it. Thanks. Yeah. No. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought. I thought I was going to create an island right there. Okay. Alright, so the final shaping, I'm going to put notches in it. Okay? Okay. And sharpen the edges. Wait, I should use the other one. This one. Because with this one I can do the serrations and the notches and the edge work, all with the same spatula tool. Right, right. Good, good. Yes, yes. So what do I do first? It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to do the edges first. Regularize the edges, and then I'll do the notching. And if there's dull spots, I'll sharpen up the dull spots. But when I regularize it like this, it also takes care of a lot of the dull spots. I gots to be careful though. Gots to be. Still has little step fractures near the tip. The tip is still a little bit wonky. Do I need to unwonkify it? Yep, I do. Not for me, but for you. Let's see. Okay. Can you see? I think it's good enough. I could persnickety it to death, but I'm not going to. You might think, oh, I've already persnickied it to death. Okay, fine. I won't do it more. Try not to. So yeah, I'm regularizing it and sharpening it, getting rid of the dull spots and the lumps. Now the notches. Okay, I'm going to put in a concave base. Yep. Why? Because it makes the barbs sharper. Why? Because it's more difficult. Yep. It wouldn't be flint knapping unless I made it as difficult as possible. No? Right? Right. You always agree. It's so nice. Yep. You're always agreeable. Okay, ready? I usually don't do the base notch first, but in this case it's really thick down here. Maybe I can thin it down a little bit first before I do the side notches. Sometimes it helps with the side notches to thin it from the base. Yeah. If I do the pop outs correctly, but yeah, it's still thick on the side, so it didn't help all that much. So let me do the side notches. Well, hold on. It's still thick at the base. All right, I'll finish the base notch in a little bit. Okay? Okay. Come on. Don't be difficult, because at this stage I don't want to have to use any pressure that I don't need to. Any excessive pressure at this stage can be catastrophic. Yeah. Heat treat is so nice. And because it allows you to take off flakes without much effort. If it was raw, I need to use more pressure, and the chances of snapping off a barb becomes much greater. How do they do it back in the day? Lots of failures. If you're getting lots of failures now, they probably got lots of failures back in the day. They're just like you guys. I mean, we're all the same. Same, no matter what time period. Everybody has difficulties. If you're having difficulties, that means they had difficulties. Yeah. Don't go, they didn't have any difficulties. They were so talented and awesome. No, they had difficulties and breakages and tools that didn't work, and stone that was cruddy, and days where they felt terrible and miserable. They got sick of colds and stuff too, or stomach aches and headaches. Yeah. Some of them had, what did they call it? Fatigue syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. All those things were, you know, existed back in the day. You know, bad eyesight sometimes. Every challenge that we have, they had also. Was it hard to obtain food? Yeah. Well, how much harder is it if that's all you have to do is get food? How hard is it compared to our lives when we have to work, go to work to get our money to get food? Still come home at the end of the day exhausted. Yeah. Yeah, you come home from a day of hunting exhausted. Especially if you don't get anything or get very little. That whole day, you spent the whole day just to get a rabbit. That's it. And you got angry, so you also killed a snake. So you brought a snake and a rabbit home. That's it. And nobody wants to eat the snake, so you give them the rabbit and you eat the snake. And you go, life has no meaning. You don't think they went through that? Oh, yes. They went through that. Okay, so that's the side notches, and now I'm going to finish the base notch. I know it looks finished already, but it can be even more finished than that. Oh yeah. By risking breaking it. Yeah. Voila. Okay, so I'm going to actually put some more effort into this edge and put little bitty serrations in it. Okay, so hold on. Let me finish out the base notch, make it more symmetrical and nice. More rounded, you know. More rounder. Okay. And I'll put little serrations in it. How's that? I think I like these little arrowheads more than the big ones. Yes, I do. And just for a size comparison for the one from yesterday. See that? Let's compare it to the real one. See that? Is it similar? The real one is even smaller. Yeah. Smaller. You say, I don't want to see that. Well, how is it compared to a dime? Ah, I got a dime. This is how it compares. It's bigger than a dime. It doesn't fit within a dime unless I break the tip off and make it a little tiny. Yeah. You want me to break the tip off and then resharpen it so it fits on the dime? Smarty pants. I can do it. No, you don't want me to do it. Anyways. It still works even if it fits on a dime. Oh yeah. I just like to have a nice long point. Yep. Alright. So, let's put little bitty serrations in it. Shall we? Yes? Can you see? No? It's the same color as the pad. Yeah, I know. I'm a dum-dum. How do I do this so you can see? Because I don't need the pad right now. Come on, I gotta steady the camera. Pick at it slowly. Yeah. I was talking earlier that I don't need to persnicketify it, but guess what I'm doing? Yeah. I'm gonna put little bitty serrations in it. Oh yes. It's not working that good because the tip of the tool needs to be a little bit sharper. But I'm just gonna make do with what I got. Okay? Okay. You might be asking, where do you get all these expressions? Well, maybe I'm very expressive. I have no idea where they come from. They're created out of nothing. Yeah? Whoops. Thoughts are created out of nothing. They're dependent on previous thoughts, but each thought itself is created from nothing. It didn't exist before. I mean, no part of a thought exists prior to the thought. It comes from nothing. You might say, well, it's dependent on previous thoughts, but yeah, those are previous thoughts, totally separate from the current thought. Why do I think about thoughts? Probably because of autism. I don't know. I have no idea. That's the danger of self-diagnosis. I thought I had ADHD until I took the test, and I'm not as high on the ADHD scale as I am on the autism scale. So I just need to go in and get a diagnostic or a diagnosis. But last time I went through that rigmarole with one of my sons, it cost a fortune, and it's extremely difficult to get evaluated by a competent psychiatrist. or psychologist. There's psychologists and psychiatrists out there, but how competent are they? We had a hard time finding a competent one. Very hard time. And then when the competent one was found, I'm pretty sure she either died or moved. Yeah. I think she died. I don't know, had a heart attack or something. I can't remember. So there we go. Everything is left up to chance. Yes, it is. That's why people back in the day used to do weird things to try to ensure good luck. And maybe they made little bitty arrowheads to keep with them as a charm for good luck. I don't know. Could be a reason why they kept these little ones. You never know. They might have thought that there was little helper spirits they need to that like the little arrowheads as gifts, and they got to be little because they're little spirits. Who knows? Okay, I think I'm obsessed about this enough. Could be thinner, but oh well. The real one is very thin. You want me to show how thin the real one is? I will show. But I think it's made on a flake, so that's why it's so thin. Here we go. See? And it's made of white chert or chalcedony. It looks like a chalcedony, right? Okay, we'll compare. It's relatively the same thickness, but the real one is actually smaller. Slightly smaller. Yeah, did they put little serrations on the real one? No, they just snapped it regularly. And it looks like it's raw chalcedony. It's translucent. It's got little step fractures. They don't care. It was probably used. That's why they broke off the tip and some of the barb on that side. And some of the barb right here. This is the ear, I mean, and a little bit of barb was broken off right there. A little bit of the ear was broken off there. That's a deep center notch, probably for glue. It's deeper than mine. Okay, all right. So if I forgot anything about little arrowheads, I'm sure you guys will put what I forgot in the comments, or they'll just ask more questions in the comments. Were these the cause of death in warfare? I think so. I mean, why not? I don't know any specific reference to one of these as cause of death, but I'm sure they were used to fight with. Yeah. All right, so let me get the dime, and we will do a thumbnail with the dime and the arrowhead together, right? Yes. Good idea. Good idea. All right, there you go. That's it.